And blessed to be part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's go to our great friend Dan Gaynor from the Media Research Center. Dan, good morning.
Good morning to you. It's good morning to you. Another day, and so another left-wing jihad against something.
And thankfully, you're the inoculation for that. First of all, Dan, your thoughts on what we're seeing evolving here with the coverage from Parkland, Florida, of the Parkland, Florida shooting.
Last week is a good, I guess, a metaphor for how it's being handled, because it started the week with Chuck Todd on his Sunday show talking about getting rid of the Second Amendment. And he cited Bret Stephens, this columnist in the New York Times, who is allegedly one of the right-wing columnists, who had written a column basically saying that we should get rid of the Second Amendment. Yes, this is how you prosper in major media if you're allegedly conservative, is you basically put out left-wing talking. So they went from that to the awful town hall that was more like a Salem witch trial. Then later in the week we had Bret Stephens on MSNBC, where he's a contributor, because if you're a right winger, you really want to work at MSNBC and talk about taking away guns from people. And then, interestingly enough, though, we did end the week on an up note with Jake Tapper, because I think it's pretty obvious Jake Tapper felt he had been used by Sheriff Israel, and who apparently knew a lot more than he was saying during the town hall. And one does not mistreat the press, but particularly somebody who's got his own show and invites you on, because Tapper really took him to the woodshed. Then here, of course, if you're a Parkland student and you want to take away guns, you are a national star right now. And that's what the media are doing. I can't imagine a crisis expert, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, even one of these stupid TV doctors who would recommend that the way to treat somebody who's gone through a really horrific trauma is to put them in front of news cameras, put them out on radio, TV, the internet, to be criticized because basically they're advocating for taking away people's rights. That can't be healthy. But that's exactly what's happening with the Parkland kids, and the media are just eating it up because ultimately they're benefiting from both the ratings and pushing their agenda.
It does seem odd that these kids seem so natural and so opinionated. And Dan, you and I weren't like this. We knew everything at that age. And you see that with these kids as well. It's amazing.
Well, it's not just. Of course, they don't. I mean, and any sort of criticism, anytime you point out that some of the stuff they're saying is stupid or inconsistent, then of course, you're attacking the kids, and now everybody wants to descend on you. And what they went through is horrible. Don't say otherwise. To say otherwise is a lie. That doesn't give them infinite moral authority to take away my rights or your rights or the rights of anybody in any state in this country. But that's what they want. You look at what's happening right now. S.E. Cupp is doing a good job on her show, CNN, HLN, talking about how the media are putting out all this garbage information, and how the left is putting out laws to take away your guns. Yes, that's what they want. Because they accomplish two things with. I mean, I think it's safe to say their number one fantasy right now is an Australian law, where you get rid of semi-automatic weapons. Forget that there's easily more than probably 100 or more million of semi-automatic weapons. They work on the theory that either they get them, we can finally stop the gun lobby, gut the gun lobby, and etc. Or what they do is overnight they turn people who refuse to turn in their weapons into felons. Then the left is okay. The left wants to clear the prisons out. We've got a prison industrial complex. We can get rid of people who smoke marijuana or do heroin, or we get them out of the prison system and just focus on major criminals. Conservative. conservative.
Amazing how the world continues to change. Dan Gaynor joining us from the Media Research Center. Let's go to the press's accomplices in Congress. Of course, we have the usual suspects saying it's time to get rid of the Second Amendment.
This is. Look, you want to try to get rid of the Second Amendment? Go right ahead. There's a process for this. Go right ahead. But the left doesn't like the process because the process is set up so that the states actually have some rights. So states that have smaller populations, let's say states in the West,
so here we have
it. Meghan
McCain and Jamil Hill.
They get to overrule states like New York and California.
She was a sports announcer, still
They've got
is
more
on ESPN.
more representation.
The problem is,
well, of course they do.
Political.
Then you read
and thankfully, I don't think that we had a lot of political discussion.
That's why we have a
during
nation.
the Winter
These
Olympics.
small states
yes,
agreed with the big states, so they were not dominated.
About
that's why we have our
lawsuit that settled,
Senate
and of
set
course
up
the Me Too
same
movement
way.
was going crazy.
But the idea that
the Winter
liberals could overturn the Constitution and overturn how we even do our government. That's what it's going to take here, and that's what they want.
Well, I was going to talk about the teachers
if you go back
for a second,
to the
because
past
I was a
election,
teacher.
that was one of the big complaints.
You don't want me to have a gun.
More people voted for Hillary. She should win. We have to get rid of the electoral college.
My mom was a teacher. My aunt is a teacher.
You realize why the electoral college exists?
Their job is not to be gun wielders. They're supposed
and we see it to this day. Our great friend Dan Gaynor joining us here from the Media Research Center. Do you believe that this will continue until let's get your review of the president yesterday. He's saying he would have gone in very critical of the sheriff's department, saying it's time to ban bump stocks and breaking from the with the NRA. There we have it. It's better to be a victim and to be dead
I know a lot of
than to
people
take
who
your
are gun owners who don't give a darn about bump stocks.
From yesterday, Kevin Miller in the morning
I think
here,
they
KIDO
look at them as the slippery slope, and I think that's really the concern.
Going off the
rails. Once you start, it's
I can't believe
gun laws are like
potato
chips.
Where this woman
Once you start with one, you're not going to stop with one.
Dave,
and I think that's the general concern.
I really believe I'd run into, even if I didn't have a weapon.
Anybody
most of the people
who says they're 100% sure what they do in a situation where people are shooting,
but the way they perform
it's aspirational. But here's the difference.
Of the United States
guy was trained to do it. He had body armor and a gun. He was supposed to do it. He wasn't. It took him a week before he even had the courage to come out and make a personal statement that wasn't through his lawyer. I'm sorry, but I have no respect for that. I have no sympathy for that. It appears by all news reports that this department, the sheriff's department, is a disaster. And that watching the sheriff flail wildly during the interview with Jake Tapper the other day. If I were governor of Florida, he'd already be suspended. If I were the state, I'd be investigating his entire department because it looks like it's a disaster.
Our great friend Dan Gaynor joining us from the Media Research Center. So, Dan, let's take a look at where we go from here. Anything that we should expect, of course. I really love when the media gives the leader of North Korea the benefit of the doubt at the expense of our president.
Well, there's a long history with this. Go back to look at the Cold War. Go back. The media have always propped up foreign leaders who stick it to the West because, frankly, they don't like the West. So whether it's Stalin or Khrushchev or Gorbachev or pick a Russian leader, or Castro, or Mao, or Hugo Chavez, or whoever. And look what a disaster Venezuela is right now. Venezuela is so horrific that the prisoners are killing rats and pigeons so they can have something to eat. The oil workers. This is the country with the most oil of any country on earth. The oil workers have left their jobs because they're not getting paid, and so they have to go out seeking food. So the economy, which is entirely oil-based, is totally collapsing. Hundreds of thousands of people have fled the country. I don't remember which one of the Venezuelan neighbors called up a couple thousand troops to put them on the border to keep more refugees from coming in. And this is what socialism is. Socialism did this. And yet the media don't want to report on Venezuela as a socialist collapse. They want to report on, America needs to do something. What? We didn't cause it. It's run by a socialist dictator, unless you want to let us do the number one thing we could do to save that country, which is loan them a cruise missile, one, aimed at the presidential palace, I don't think that anything else we're going to do is solve the problem.
Dan Gainor joining us from the Media Research Center. Finally, CPAC last week, you have Joy Behar saying that conservatives are, linked to Nazis. You have Nicole Wallace, this is from your sister site, newsbusters.org, saying the party of Lincoln and Nixon is the party of the KKK and others. I mean, we always talk about this, but, they've gone off the rails again.
They've not been on the rails in recent memory. They don't even know where the track is. They don't care. There's you can say the most insane thing on television, and if it's left-wing, there's really very few ramifications for that. Joy Behar came out and attacked the vice president over his Christian faith, attacked him and said he was insane. She didn't apologize. We've been running a campaign urging people to contact the advertisers, urging people to call ABC. We've sent 30,000 phone calls at ABC. They still haven't apologized. She's demented and evil. Doesn't matter. You can say anything you want. If you're a liberal on television, never hurt you. If you're conservative and say something even supporting traditional values, I support traditional marriage. You must be banned. It's a very scary world we're heading into right now.
Well, thankfully, we have you, Big Dan, and the West Coast Gainers.
The West Coast Gainers and I don't always agree on politics. But just being honest, in case any of them are listening right now.
Well, Dan Gainor, we love you. You take care of yourself, sir.
Thank you very much. It's always good to talk to you.
All right, Dan Gainor joining us from the Media Research Center. Coming up next, the president says he would have gone in and stopped this killer with his bare hands. You'll hear from him next with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. And blessed to be a part of your day, Kevin Miller in the morning here. So here we have it, Meghan McCain and Jemele Hill. You may wonder who Jemele Hill is. She was a sports announcer, still is, on ESPN. It just shows you really what the problem is when sports becomes political. And thankfully, I don't think that we had a lot of political discussion during the Winter Olympics. Yes, we had the Shaun White controversy about a lawsuit that he settled, and, of course, the Me Too movement was going crazy. But even though the Winter Olympics was one of the lowest rated of all times, one of the benefits of watching the luge or the skeleton or the curling, who would have ever thought that we had come so far in curling, was the fact that we kept the politics out of it. I wish that the sports media, and look, I don't know, they cover the jock straps and the athletic supporters, and they do a fairly decent job of it. One of my best friends is a sports guy. Paul Feinbaum does a great job. But, you stay out of politics. So Jemele Hill, she has been demoted from her position at ESPN because of her comments concerning our president, Donald Trump. She was on The View yesterday. Let's take a listen.
And suddenly I became a walking think piece.
Okay. So you said Donald Trump is you tweeted, Donald Trump is a white supremacist who has largely surrounded himself with other white supremacists.
Yep.
And that was...
Well, it was right after Charlottesville.
Right after Charlottesville.
Right. Yeah, so that's why I said I was reacting and responding in that moment.
So we've all tweeted things in the moment, myself included. I've tweeted things in the heat of the moment when I've been emotional. It's something I've had to learn the hard way not to do as I've grown in my career. Do you still stand by what you said? And do you think that President Trump's supporters are white supremacists?
I still stand by what I said. I don't think that his supporters are white supremacists. What I would say, though, is that they have the benefit of privilege to be able to distance and disassociate themselves from certain issues. Me, as a woman of color, I feel vulnerable to certain behaviors.
Okay, someone will have to translate that for me. Again, I go back to my dad when we was here. We were going out, and he had a disagreement with me and my mom, and he says, look, I choose to be a victim. I don't know if it's, with all due respect, I don't know if it's a young person thing. I don't know if it's a not so young person thing, but, she's a victim because of her ethnicity. Yet, because of her ethnicity, she, says what she wants. She's on television, very talented young lady as well, very provocative. And yet here she calls President Trump a white supremacist, but his people that voted for him aren't. It doesn't make sense. If you are a white supremacist and people vote for you, therefore you would be a white supremacist, right? I don't believe that President Trump is. And again, President Trump tells it like it is or like he sees it, and he gets a reaction. They're not used to this. And by the way, as someone who has a very, very still scars to this day from the Obama administration, see, I'm being a victim as well. Did anybody ever say that about Barack Obama? Oh, yeah, it was our friend Glenn Beck that you can catch right after me. What happened to Glenn Beck? He was forced to apologize. And I believe, what did he say on Fox and Friends? The quote was, quote, Barack Obama hates white people or something of that nature. He was vilified, ridiculed, and probably was one of the reasons why he left the Fox News channel. Yet you have Jemele Hill continuing to say these lies about our president. And let's see what the reaction is here.
Certain policies, certain things that he said and done. And so all of that was part of that response of feeling that vulnerability. If it doesn't impact you directly, or if you don't feel that, it's probably harder for you to understand it. And so I just ask those who do support him to understand that that perspective is coming from that place. It's not about calling you out necessarily. It's about the fact that in this time and in this moment, it feels like people of color are under attack.
Right. So, again, you take a look at where the majority of population is, where the minority population is, unemployment at an all-time low level, people getting jobs, people feeling good about the economy. And unfortunately, Jemele Hill has practiced identity politics, has practiced victimhood. And look, those of you, and one of the reasons why I say we're blessed to be a part of you, because, look, you have a lot of choices. When you get in, if we don't say something compelling, you have choices. You go to work every day. You have to perform. I don't really know what Jemele Hill does. She writes articles, and again, she's a victim, and she says that if you're not in her specific ethnicity, then you're not sensitive to the issues of the day. Look, the issues of the day are how to make our kids' life better, how to ensure that America, the great standard of living, comes back after 8 years of Obama, to make sure the goof in North Korea doesn't blow us up. Those are real issues. Those are, what do we call those? Real world problems, not made up phony first world problems that we're seeing from Jemele Hill. She continues. And again, like I said, I love how this goes on. It has nothing to do with sports, but she's a victim. Trump is evil. You can vote for Trump. And really, what has Trump ever said that has been racist? Really? What has Trump said that has been racist?
Would you say to and I'm genuinely curious to have this conversation, because I remember when it happened being sort of taken aback. Like, what would you say to a Ben Carson, who's working in the administration, who's obviously not white? Would you consider him a white supremacist?
No, I mean, I wouldn't. As I said, I don't consider his supporters or everyone.
You also just said you stand by what you tweeted, which is that he's surrounded by white supremacists.
Yeah, but I wasn't talking about Ben Carson. I think we know that.
Oh, so now it's selective. Hey, don't let me hog the spotlight here. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Traffic and weather together. And so I love this. Well, what about Ben Carson? Is Ben Carson a white supremacist? My goodness. Crazy. Let's go to the phones, and let's go to Dave in Nampa with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dave.
Yes. Since 1992, when the Republican Party took ads against David Duke, supported his felonious, philandering opponent, vote for the crook, it's important. That was a bumper sticker. Bill Bennett came up with that. We are the Nazis. We are the racists. It is so Orwellian. They change, and when David Duke dies, he'll decompose in a racist way, and we'll be, told to condemn it, and we didn't do it wrong. Now there's Donald Trump. Joseph Goebbels was going to destroy someone, and someone said, why do you want to do this? He's a hero of the fatherland, of the first war, the war. And he said, just because he's a Jew, he's a hero. And he said, let's see him in 2 weeks when my press gets through with him. Donald Trump has worked with Al Sharpton, gotten a clean bill of racial health from Al Sharpton, given office space to Jesse Jackson, free of charge. Okay, his daughter married a Jew and converted to Judaism and is raising their grandsons Jewish. His 2 daughters-in-law are half Jewish. When will this war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength die? You know, I'm serious. It is, you can't vote for these people. You have to stop supporting. And if there's any leftists out there, please stop giving these people your support. They are unworthy of it. They are liars. And they're unbelievable liars. I'm sorry.
David, we appreciate you always listening and your passion, and you always elevate the intellectual level here, so we appreciate you here at KIDO Talk Radio. Anything else you want to hit us with?
No, that's it. Just
all right.
Fire department started in 1790 by Benjamin Franklin to burn books of British influence. The fire department has always burned fires or burned houses. Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, we appreciate you. Thank you, brother.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Coming up next, more of Jamil Hill, more of you and your thoughts on the president. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good. Well, I was going to talk about the teachers for a second because I was a teacher. Mm-hmm. Believe me, you don't want me to have a gun.
Yeah. Well, my mother's a teacher. My aunt is a teacher, and I don't. Their job is not to be gun wielders. They're supposed to be teaching our children.
I know. Somebody said something in the yesterday, the CNN or wherever it was, both of those things that I thought was very interesting. One of the teachers said, I don't want to be responsible to have to shoot someone. I mean, it's bad to get shot, but to shoot someone, I mean, I don't know if I could live with that.
There we have it. It's better to be a victim and to be dead than to take your chances. Again, the brilliance of the view from yesterday. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you all for joining us. Talking more about the liberal loons going off the rails. I can't believe what I just heard, where this woman is saying, I don't know if I could shoot someone. It's okay to get shot. Number one. Number two, your reaction to Jamil Hill saying that Donald Trump is a white supremacist, but people that voted for him aren't. Very strange indeed. We'll continue to try and inoculate everyone from the liberal pandemic that continues. Let's go to Brian in Nampa with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Brian.
See, now, Kevin, you distracted me from what I wanted to say. Anybody that says they don't know if they could shoot somebody hasn't been in a violent confrontation and hasn't seen the results of it. I bet you they would change their mind in about less than 2 or 3 seconds once they saw it happen. But the reason I called in is I want to argue with the president a little bit. I love some of the things he says and does, but on the opposite extent, I can see some of his Democratic upbringing coming out, and I wanted to play devil's advocate and argue. Is that okay?
You know, we welcome all views here, and I'm in agreement. I have a feeling I know where you're going, so I'm in agreement with you, even though I haven't heard it yet.
Okay. So he's wanting to raise the age to have a rifle to 18. I had a rifle when I was 12. I had a BB gun when I was 8. It was just a .22, but I defended myself with it, and it hung above my bed every night. When I was 14, I had a 20 gauge. I wish these politicians would stop basing policy on failure and start basing it on success. Why don't they look at people like me, what my parents did, and I also say my religious upbringing, a.k.a. morals, that kept me from going and doing something stupid with my firearm. I wish the president would look at that and just look at the people that are successful with it and look into what we're doing and replicate it. Make sense?
It does. It seems the president, though, is bowing to public pressure here with the bump stocks, with this, that, and the other, saying he's going to go against the NRA. And I think you either see this one of two ways. Either you're for the guns or you're for taking the guns.
Yeah, and my second thing was the bump stocks. You know I don't have one. I can do the same thing a bump stock does without a bump stock. I can just do it by the proper technique, or I can do it with my thumb on a belt loop, or I can do it with a rubber band. So are they going to basically make me serialize myself and say, hey, I'm a bump stock because I know the technique? The other problem I have with it is the bill they're looking at says rate increasing device. That is so generic, it scares me. Let me give you an example. You put a screw-on compensator on a rifle or a pistol, that lessens the recoil. It makes the gun a lot louder, but it makes the follow-up shots faster. That's a rate increasing device. On an AR-15, if you put a gas system that bleeds off less gas, that makes the recoil less. That would make it easier to do a follow-up shot. That is a rate increasing device. You put an aftermarket trigger in any gun that makes it lighter or a little bit smoother or a quicker reset, that is a rate increasing device. You put a 2 or 3 mag extension on a clip, that could be considered a rate increasing device. So even if, quote unquote, Trump didn't classify those things as a rate increasing device, later down the road, when a Democratic president comes in, he could go across the board and say basically any advances in firearm technology you could consider a rate increasing device. That gets very dangerous because you could say a semi-automatic weapon technology is a rate increasing device. Can you see how that scares me a little bit?
Well, you're right to do that, and really what we're saying, it's idealism versus realism.
Yeah, exactly.
Brian, thank you. Appreciate anything else? I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
I just let's apply it to the First Amendment. What rate increasing devices do we currently own? Cell phones, computers, all this technology that makes it easier for us to communicate. What do you think the founders would have said about if we wanted to ban those devices?
Very good point. Thank you, Brian.
You bet.
Kevin Miller in the morning here. As we continue on, coming up, the president says in the meeting with governors that he would have gone in and stopped the shooter. Now, if you are a fan of the president, like I am, you believe him. Others are ridiculing him. Speaking of, well, our diversity and the diversity of the caller base here at KIDO Talk Radio in the Treasure Valley, our great friend, Liberal Steve. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. How are you on this fine day?
Fighting a cold like a lot of people here in the Treasure Valley. A chilly day, sir. A chilly day indeed.
And what's with having Dan Gaynor on first thing? I mean, come on. He lives in one of the most liberal states, Maryland. Massachusetts and Maryland, I think, are the top 2 lib states in the United States.
Actually, I think Massachusetts is the top.
I said the top 2, Maryland and Massachusetts.
Sorry, I didn't. I was trying to help.
Don't challenge me, sir. Please, sir. Don't try and challenge me.
Duly noted, sir.
Okay. Wyoming, Utah, the 2 conservatives. So, yeah, Gaynor, I mean, he's out there spouting the libs, da-da-da-da, and then he goes to lunch with nothing but a bunch of conservative mixed liberals. They're all liars. They want to pit us one against the other, and that's what they're doing. They're just getting so good at it. Let's pit them together, you know.
The libs want to pinch us against the other, yes.
Yeah, that's like your last caller getting it wrong on Trump, too. He didn't say 18, he said 21. It's already at 18. You know, and I'm for it now. I am for banning the AR-15s. Get rid of them.
Why?
Okay? Case dismissed.
You didn't say why.
Just to do it. Just to appease the minority out there. Just to throw them a bone. Now they got it. Now what else are they going to say?
Well, then it's going to be magazines, and then it's going to be ammunition, and then you're going to have the vocal minority dictating to you. You know, we get into this debate all the time, and somebody said, "Well, I'm not in favor of an AR," and they go, "What about you?" And I go, "Because I can." Because because there's no law against it, because it's my right to have it.
I come forward with an answer to the whole thing, and you poo-poo it. I mean, you can't predict the future. Are they going to go after the magazines? Are they going to have to go after? You can't predict any of that. It could just be settled, and we could move on to the important things, like the structures, the bridges, the roads, the infrastructure of the United States, the wall. Oh, by the way, on the wall, are they going to have no trespassing on the Mexico side?
I can tell it's been a while since you've talked, because we're getting a lot of information.
Yes, you should, because you've been no information lately. I listen. So is the wall going to have no trespassing on the Mexico side, and then on the American side, they're going to have help wanted? I love laughing at my own little stupidity.
And you're the only one. All right, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up, we'll talk to Pete. We'll talk to Tom Munns and Terry and you, Kevin Miller. You're listening to KIDO Talk Radio.
You don't know until you test it, but I really believe I'd run in there even if I didn't have a weapon. And I think most of the people in this room would have done that too, because I know most of you. But the way they performed was really a disgrace.
There you have it, the President of the United States saying, look, I would have gone in.
You don't know until you test it, but I really believe I'd run in there even if I didn't have a weapon. And I think most of the people in this room would have done that too, because I know most of you.
Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Pete in Mountain Home, thank you for your patience, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. Couple things. I can always tell that I am winning a logical argument with a leftist, because they will call me either a Nazi or a racist. And that tells you right there you've won. And having heard a lot of what went on there in that Florida classroom, I think maybe what could have solved it is if they had bigger gun-free zone signs. Because, I mean, isn't that supposed to work?
Right. Yeah, and they could have given them after-school activity.
Yeah, if you make the signs big enough that says gun-free zone, then obviously those people that are going to go in there and kill people, they'll go, oh, I can't do that. That's a gun-free zone. That's sort of progressive logic, right?
Exactly.
And that business with people saying, oh, it would be worse to shoot someone than to let them shoot me. That is so incredibly. That is actually evil to say that. That you are not willing to defend your life or the life of other innocent parties, because doing that will make you feel bad. I'm sorry. That's something I just can't get my head around. Anyway,
wait a minute. Before you go, though, sadly, that's the world we live in today.
It is, yeah. And all I can say is there's some candidates for Darwinian selection there. Anyway, thank you, Kevin, and thank KIDO 580 107.5 FM for being the voice for us, how shall I phrase it, rational beings.
Long may we live. Thank you, Pete.
Thank you.
580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller in the morning. We go to Tom Munns, TomMunns.com, Munns Tom Twitter. Good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. Thanks for taking my call. Man.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I know it is. And, man, you know, when some of this stuff hits that hard, sometimes it's difficult to function. But anyway, I wanted to mention a couple of things. We really want a king, don't we, with Trump? You know, we're all calling to the king. Please, king, ban firearms. And then he raises the age to 21. I was really happy with a lot of what he's done, aside from the fact that there's nothing in the executive branch that gives him the authority to do that. And it's funny that you were mentioning the View, and the left says that schools are supposed to be for learning. Well, if they're supposed to be for learning, then number one, why are they being brainwashed? And the Constitution's for limiting government. So if they're going to be consistent, then they should allow the things that are supposed to be. And the other thing is that you can't really lawfully ban a constitutional amendment anyway. Nobody can do it. As a matter of fact, state statutes can't do it. and neither can federal congressional statutes do it. Article 5's got to be used, and you can't even use executive decree. And then the other thing that I really want to know is, why do we continue to allow the left to drive our agenda? We're really great whiners, we're really good complainers, but when it really comes down to it, and we're actually out there on the street, there's usually only the same 35 to 50 people that show up, with the exception of gun rallies. And the other thing is that if the only thing that we focus on is the Second Amendment, why aren't we worried about the other parts of our Constitution? They think that the Second Amendment is somehow going to defend the rest of it. We already have examples of the fact that that's not true, and the president has already decided to be able to raise the gun age from 18 to 21, further regulating firearms, which is what the Second Amendment was supposed to be to protect. So I'm wondering if we're just protecting some phantom. And the other thing really to consider, Kevin, is that, we've talked about school shootings before, and I've mentioned to you that they were false flags. But here we go again. You could probably play back some of my old comments between you and I, and we have said the same MO. Except we've got we've got the kid with the FBI in there. We've got FBI dereliction. We've got multiple shooter claims. We've got the sheriffs that won't go in. We've got psychotropic drugs once again. And then we've got the AP within hours came out and said it was a white nationalist. Now, if you take this into consideration with the 1960s document, Freedom from War, what we find out is there is an incremental move to disarm America. And whether they want to believe it or not, it's happening. And just because Trump is president does not mean that we shouldn't be on alert and we shouldn't still be fighting for our freedom. And so I just wanted to leave a couple of thoughts with you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Tom Munz, TomMunz.com, traffic and weather. And we continue on. Let's go to Terry in Boise with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, the Good Shepherd of the Treasure Valley.
Good to talk to you, brother.
This thing about arming teachers and everything else, that's all right. But if I wasn't battling this cancer and didn't have the lack of energy and cognitive thinking, impairment of energy, the one thing like Dick Cheney and that company that he used to be employed by, having contractors go to these school districts. You can get retired police, retired military, and that are trained, certified, and get the insurance to keep them from being sued. And have these contractors go to the school districts. I think our administrators of school districts are overpaid here.
Terry, great point. We appreciate it. God bless you in my prayers, brother.